Exposed my GF's affair at her work to get back at her, but now she's destroying my stuff, so I'm taking her to court. Hello everyone, I'm Rick, 29M, and my ex-girlfriend Taylor, 27F, and I were in a relationship for 3 years and at the edge of getting married. I made a shocking discovery. I first met my girlfriend at an organization I went to for a job interview. She was one of the applicants. While waiting for the interview, we broke into a conversation. We exchanged our contacts while leaving after the interview. Ideally, I thought I would get the job because I was very qualified. Unfortunately, I didn't clear, but she did. We soon started chatting, and she helped with any interview lead and shared the tips for the interview, which helped her crack the last one. Luckily, I got one a couple of months later, and we became friends. Aside from being in the same career field, one of the things that attracted me to my girlfriend was her witty conversations, sense of humor, and the energy she gave off. When I met Taylor, I had no intention of falling in love with her, it just happened. I only asked for her number because she looked like the kind of witty friend I'd love to have in my circle of friends. To be more specific, we exchanged numbers to keep each other posted about the job we were interviewing for. Eventually, as we got closer, we fell in love and started dating. We dated for almost 3 years before I learned something that destroyed our relationship. During the years we dated, Taylor and I lived together for a year, but after 1 year, she said that she wanted to shift back with her best friend. Her reason was that we would anyways be living together after the wedding. Hence, she wanted to spend her bachelorhood with her best friend. I didn't see that to be a problem and gladly gave her the space she needed. She visited me on weekends and stayed over on some days, so basically, she was living both with me and her best friend. She kept shuffling from my house to hers. We were a beautiful power couple, and even without telling people we were dating, they could quickly tell from how we acted whenever we went out together. In the past, I had been in a committed relationship once. After the relationship ended badly, I decided to take a break, but everything changed when I met Taylor. Throughout our relationship, I supported Taylor in everything she did. I encouraged her to take courses, work harder, and invest my all in her. From the second year of our relationship, I knew she was the woman I would marry because she ticked all the boxes. She knew how to care for me and love me, and she also handled other areas of our relationship well. The first year we lived together, we split bills and took care of everything together, but after she started shuffling between my house and her best friend's house, the splitting of bills stopped. On our anniversaries and on her birthdays, I gifted her the things I knew she loved just to make her happy, and to be honest, she was my priority all the time. I sacrificed a lot for her and tried everything I could to keep our relationship happy. I didn't do all this because I was desperate to be with her. I did them because I valued our relationship and wanted it to be all-round peace and happiness for us. I remember this vividly. Shortly before Taylor started shuffling between my and her best friend's houses, one night as we were watching a movie, she asked a weird question out of the blue. She asked for my opinion on open relationships. I instantly remarked that people who had open relationships were not in love with each other and laughed. She took offense and tried to counter my statement. She went on and on to tell me that she knew many couples in open relationships and they loved each other so much. She told me that I sounded archaic. I didn't take it seriously and changed the topic. Another day, we were having dinner together, and suddenly she asked, "What do you think about us having an open relationship?" Initially, I thought she was pulling my leg, but after I saw her facial expression, I knew she was serious. There and then, I kicked against the idea of having an open relationship, and I told her I'd prefer to be single than have an open relationship. After that day, she never brought it up again, and I didn't think about it too. Even before our relationship started, I told Taylor that the thing I hated most in a relationship was cheating and lying spouses. I would not forgive her if she ever cheated on me. I repeatedly said this because of the wounds I got from my previous relationship. I did not want a situation where I would give my heart to her, and she would shatter it by cheating on me. So this was the main reason I also ensured that our relationship would not be ruined from my end. Soon after Taylor moved out, I noticed some changes in her attitude. It began with her standing me up on our dates. We had the rule of going out every Friday evening, whether going for a walk in the park, eating at a food truck, or going to a fancy restaurant. We always went out every Friday. Because she wasn't living with me anymore, the deal was for her to come to my apartment and go out together. When it all started, she would keep me waiting for hours, and if I kept calling her, she would either not take my calls or ask us to reschedule the meeting because something urgent came up. Other times, she would cancel on me a couple of minutes before our meeting time and claim she thought she sent me a text about the cancellation. When that happened, I should have been smart enough to know something was wrong. Instead, I bought all her excuses and encouraged her to work less since most of her excuses had to do with her office. Even though it was annoying when she canceled almost all the time, I didn't take any to heart because I was the understanding boyfriend. Fast forward to a year after she moved out, Taylor and I became so distant, and despite living in the same town, it felt like we were in a long-distance relationship. She got promoted at her office, which even took more of her time. She started traveling a lot with her team, and we barely saw each other. Whenever she was back in town, things got so bad that we only relied on WhatsApp messages. Sometimes I would even send her messages, and she would not read them, but she'd continually make WhatsApp updates. When it got to the extent I could not take things anymore, I talked to her best friend to talk to her, but that didn't yield any results. Eventually, I confronted Taylor about our diminishing relationship, and she claimed work was taking much of her time. This excuse was funny because I knew her job wasn't meant to take her time like that. Even freelancers working with different clients simultaneously had more time than Taylor did. After the confrontation, Taylor promised to improve, and for 2 months, she improved. She called more often, responded to my messages on time, and even updated me on her daily activities. She even started the weekend with me after a long time of not visiting my house. Her changes made me happy, and I was beginning to feel like we were back on track. I didn't want to sound like an enemy of progress, so I didn't ask her to find another job. Instead, we agreed on how to cope with her busy schedule. When this happened, I felt it was time to finally settle down. Taylor had never mentioned anything about getting married, and I believe she wanted me to bring up the topic on my own as the man. So, I got an expensive engagement ring and planned to propose to her the next time she came over for the weekend. That weekend, when she came on Friday as she usually did, we went to a fancy restaurant to eat, and I took the ring with me. But something within me didn't allow me to do it. I could not propose to her there as I intended. Later that night, when we returned home, she fell asleep in the middle of our Friday movie night. I knew she was tired because she had been complaining of tiredness since she came over to my place. Out of love, I took her to the bedroom and tucked her in bed. When I returned to watch the movie we were watching, I noticed her phone was stuck in the old couch seat, and I pulled it out for her. While I was watching the movie, I thought about going through her phone, but I resisted it. During the early stage of our relationship, we used to have access to each other's phones because we had nothing to hide. So, after contemplating for a while, I grabbed her phone, but it required fingerprint access. Sincerely, I was so lazy to return to the room to get her fingerprint, and I was trying as hard as possible to not be a nosy partner. But my curiosity had the best of me, and when I finally had access to her phone through her fingerprints, I was shocked at what I saw. The very first place I went through was her call log. Apart from me and her best friend, I wanted to see if she was talking to someone else regularly. I didn't even go down her call log when I saw a contact saved as Daddy. It was really confusing because her dad was late, and she wasn't close to any of her older family members except her mom. I knew it wasn't my number either because my contact was saved with my name just above it. She had spoken to Daddy thrice during the day and a few minutes before arriving at my apartment that evening. Out of curiosity, I went through her WhatsApp to find the contact, and it was right there at the top of her messages. They were messages from Daddy she had not read yet because she had slept off. When I opened the message, I realized they had been communicating the whole evening, even while we were at the restaurant. At first glance, I could tell that everything was wrong with their chat because of the emojis they used. So, I decided to start from the beginning of their conversation. I was shocked to find out that Taylor and her boss were in a relationship. She was in another relationship while we were still together, and according to what I read, she told her boss she was in an open relationship with me until marriage. Their conversation dated way back, and I had goosebumps when I found out their relationship started around the same time she started asking questions about open relationships. Not just that, Taylor had an abortion for him once, and she was greatly compensated with money, and part of her compensation was the promotion she got. I was heartbroken and wished I could unread everything I saw. Another heart-wracking part was that they mentioned me in some of their conversations and said all kinds of things about me. As I continued to read, I found out that it was her daddy's idea for her to start spending the weekend with me. She didn't even want to. He asked her to do it so I wouldn't get jealous that someone else was taking more of her time. After a lot of persuasion from him, she agreed. He also explained that he wanted her to get busy with me so he could also have time for his own family. He said his family was already complaining about him, and his wife was beginning to suspect that he was cheating on her, and he didn't want that. That was the most ridiculous thing I had read, and it hurt to find out that the calls, messages, and updates did not come genuinely from Taylor. That night, I sat on the couch unsure what to do. I thought of various ways of confronting and exposing her. At that moment, I thought of waking her with a bucket of cold water and yelling at her to explain everything. But I had anger issues, and I knew that idea would take me to jail for physical assault. So I went for a walk to clear my head and think properly. Before leaving the house, I exported their entire chat and sent it to myself, then marked the last messages as unread. After hours of walking with no destination, I came up with an idea similar to one I had read on Reddit. It was very difficult to pull this through, but I did it. The whole of the weekend, I kept my cool like nothing had happened, and before she left on Sunday evening the following week, I went to her office on a Tuesday. Since it was a corporate organization, I was asked to wait for her. While I waited, I handed out printed copies of the chat between Taylor and her boss to everyone I bumped into, including the receptionist. By the time Taylor came to see me, many people were holding the copies, and they were in shock. One of the men in her office immediately shouted, "I knew it. I knew it. I told you all something was going on, but you all said I talked too much." Taylor was so confused, and when she asked what was going on, I handed her a copy. As soon as she glanced through it, she flung the copy and tried to hold me with what I had done. I knew the news would spread to HR, meaning she would no longer have a job. I loved how everyone looked at her as I walked out of the room, and as she ran after me, just as I was about to enter my car and drive off, she ran, held my arm, and said she could explain. Shortly after I arrived home, she dashed out of a taxi without shoes and came to beg me. She kept banging on my house door, and because of this, the neighbors came out. It was so annoying, but I used the opportunity to throw out the few things she left at my place through the window, and I told her to go and be with her daddy. She still refused to leave, and her best friend arrived after an hour. Her best friend tried to speak to me from outside, but when I didn't respond, she packed all the stuff I threw and dragged Taylor inside her car. Since then, Taylor has been blowing my phone, and she has literally called all my friends to help her beg me to take her back. It's so brave of her to think we could ever be together after everything she's done. Now, the deal is, despite everything she has done, I still love her, but I do not want to be with her. I've been trying to get over everything and move on, but she has been begging me to see and talk. I know it's stupid, but I have fixed a meeting with her for next week, and I'm confused about what to do. I can't get over the memories we shared in my apartment. Almost everything in it reminds me of her. My heart wants her, but being with her will be disastrous for me. Has anyone had a similar experience? I look forward to your comments. Update 1. Hello everyone. I'm glad to know others have been in the same situation. You are all right. Even if I agree to give Taylor another chance, she will cheat on me again. Women like her are never contented and will always have an excuse to cheat. A few days ago, Taylor and I met as we had scheduled, and immediately she saw me, she started crying and making a scene. I was even embarrassed because we were at the park, and I tried to pretend everything was fine. After we had settled, she told me she had never believed in monogamy from the onset, and she thought I was the kind of man that would love an open relationship as our relationship progressed. But when she suggested that we have an open relationship and I kicked against it, she was disappointed and decided to do her thing. It was funny for her to think I would never find out about her relationship. She even said she had no intentions of telling me, and she intended to stop once I proposed to her or married. But nothing she said matched what I had read on her WhatsApp chat. When I asked her about the abortion, she started sobbing and apologizing. She said the pregnancy was mine, but she needed the promotion badly, so she lied to her boss and claimed she was pregnant for him because she knew he wouldn't let her keep it. In order to terminate the pregnancy, she negotiated a promotion and a huge amount of money to travel to another state for the process. At this point, I didn't even know if she was telling the truth, and I was really pained that she intended to fool me until we married. She, of all people, knew how I was protective of her body. She knew I would never want to share her with anybody, yet she cheated on me with her boss. Someone here commented that I asked her what she wanted, and when I did, she said she wanted us to return to the way we used to be. I told her that was impossible because she had ruined her only chance, and no matter how much I loved her, we could never return to the way we used to be. Hearing this, she stood up immediately and made a scene. She started yelling at me, called me names, and said she had been putting up with me for years, so the least I could do was stick with her. She said she had been doing me favors, and it was her turn to collect. Then she walked out on me. By this time, I didn't even know she had been fired from work, and her boss had been fired along with her. She desperately wanted me to take her back, and that's why she tried everything possible. Also, I recently learned that her best friend knew she was having an affair. But she didn't say anything. They collaboratively played me for a fool and kept me in the dark. Just this evening, she called and said she'd be coming over tomorrow, and we are not breaking up until she says so. I have never seen her act this way, and it's terrifying. Ling, I told her not to come, or I'll call the police. Whatever happens, I will make another update soon. Update 2. Hello everyone. Sorry it took me so long to make another update. Something happened, and I had to take care of that before making another update. So, Taylor came over like she had said when we talked, and I officially told her it was over between us. She laughed. She said she had no regrets about cheating on me because she did everything for her career, and she saw no harm in it. This was how I knew she would keep cheating on me even after we married. I was so pissed, so I grabbed her arm and tried to throw her out of my apartment, but she pushed me violently. When I fell and hit my arm, she pulled a mega hammer out of her purse and started destroying things in the house. She destroyed the TV, my new laptop, and several other things. I called the police to report harassment, and just as she was tearing my house apart, the police drove in. Also, one of my neighbors had called the police when she heard the argument and loud crashes in the house. Even she could not believe that Taylor would act that way. Eventually, the police came in, and Taylor was arrested because I missed my step when she pushed me with force. I fell and broke my left arm. After healing my arm, I sued Taylor in court. The first reason was for a refund of the money I spent in the hospital, and the second was for her to pay for all the damages she made to my apartment. When we went to court, the judge asked her for pictures of the damages and my hospital bills, and everything amounted to almost $7,000. I could not even replace them because it was so expensive. After the judge was done talking with me, she turned to Taylor and asked her some questions. Overall, Taylor admitted to damaging things in my house, and she claimed she broke my laptop and destroyed other things as her payback for making her lose her job. The judge was furious and passed judgment against her. As I make this update, Taylor has been ordered to replace my laptop, fix the appliances she destroyed, and she has started refunding the money I spent at the hospital. Now she knows we can never be a thing again, and that has made her so miserable. Worst of all, she cannot get another job in our town because she has been blacklisted. I feel so fulfilled that she has to go through all of this misery and has gotten what she deserves. I say thank you to everyone that commented on my main post. I appreciate all of your comments. Now on to the next story. Story 2, boyfriend thinks I cheated on him because I'm pregnant and a virgin at the same time. Yeah, pretty much exactly what the title says. I, 16F, am a virgin. So is my boyfriend, 16M. We're both young, and neither of us are ready for sex. Personally, it's never been high on my radar, and from what he's told me, he's the same way. That being said, we've been together for a couple of years now, so things have still happened. I'd rather not go into detail on that, but you can get the picture. Think third base, I guess. Anyways, a couple of days ago, I went to the doctor because I've been feeling really sick lately. I did a urine test and a finger prick, and my doctor told me I was pregnant. Of course, I laughed at first because I thought she was joking, but no, I'm really pregnant. I kind of fell silent. She started talking about things like ultrasounds, prenatal vitamins, etc., but I cut her off and told her that wasn't possible because I've never had sex, therefore, I've never conceived. She explained to me that very few women can get pregnant by outer course, but it's still possible due to vaginal anatomy or something. I was, and still am, in complete and utter shock, so I kind of just left without any further explanation. I had driven myself because both of my parents work. I went straight to my boyfriend's house, and he was the first person I told. I hadn't even texted or called in advance because I was crying, completely distraught. I don't know why, but it didn't even cross my mind that he would think I cheated. I would never do something like that. I explained everything to him about how we never technically had sex, but we got really close, and stuff can happen. He seemed pretty loose until I eventually told him I was pregnant, which is when he rightfully got pissed at me because how the F does that even happen without us having had sex? I tried so hard to explain myself and assure him that I'd never do that ever. I told him I'd take a DNA test or something to prove that, but he didn't believe a word and made me go home. The last thing he told me was, "I really trusted you." He looked like he was about to cry. Now I'm blocked on everything, so I can't text or call explaining myself. I'll respect his decision if he wants to break up, but I need him to know I was never with anyone else. It's been killing me knowing how hurt he must feel. Luckily, he hasn't told anyone that I'm pregnant because I haven't even told my own parents yet. But he has told people that I cheated on him, and now I'm losing friends, and everything's gone to this. This was already the worst, lowest point of my life, and it seems to be getting worse. I've basically locked myself in my room. I feel so depressed. I just need him to know. Update 1. I don't use Reddit much, so I'm not sure if I was supposed to make this into a separate post or just edit the original, but you can find the OG on my account. Hi guys, I'm so sorry it took a couple of days to update. Things have been moving wildly slow, and I didn't want to create a whole post for each small thing I had to update. So much has happened. First off, I just want to specify a couple of things, misconceptions, as well as some key aspects I didn't do a good enough job explaining. No, my boyfriend didn't yell at me or call me names. He was angry, you could tell, but it was an extremely short conversation, and he was primarily silent. That's the type of person he is, though. We've had very few arguments. He usually goes quiet when he's mad. I'm not saying it was the right way to act at all, but it was understandable, in my opinion, as the possibility of this happening was entirely new and confusing to both of us. He also never spread rumors about me, as some people were saying. I want to make that clear. He told his best friend, who told another one of their close friends, and you know how that works, toxic gossip train. A few of our mutual friends, who are generally closer to him, knew him first, stopped talking to me again. That hurts a lot. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I know that if I thought someone had cheated on my friend, I would drop ties with him instantly. I understand things like this seem a lot worse to adults who maybe forget what it's like to be young and immature, because, we're 16, and that's what we are. I think people also forget that I was making this post very shortly after all of this had happened. He came to my house the morning after I made the post and apologized, explaining that he'd done a lot of research and felt bad for accusing me. He said he still didn't know if he fully trusted me but wanted to at least help me while I went through this, because if anything, we've been best friends since we were small. He came over, and we told my parents together, explaining that I didn't know if it was pregnancy or illness, and I needed to get further testing done. They seemed disappointed that I hadn't told them I was sexually active, but my mom said she was more disappointed in herself for not teaching me about reproductive health. They're being as supportive as they can, so that all happened. Flash forward to the next day, Monday, I went to the doctor to get more blood testing done. I wanted to update then, but I had to wait until I got the results back today. So far, after a full blood panel, all signs are still pointing to me being pregnant. The comments kind of got my hopes up, thinking it was most likely something else. My doctor explained that there was actually a slightly higher chance of me being pregnant than there was of a false positive, because it's generally men with cancer who receive those. I don't know if he was going off of statistics or personal experience, though. I'm not sure, since there's still not a positive way to know if it's really a pregnancy. So I have an ultrasound scheduled for this Thursday, as it was the earliest appointment available. That will be the only way to properly confirm if the ultrasound confirms that I'm pregnant. Then I'm also going to ask about getting DNA testing as a form of paternity test. Finally, I want to disclaim something. I've lied about a lot of things before. Everyone has. But pregnancy isn't something I would ever touch. There are so many women in this world that want kids but are unable to have them, and I can't imagine what it's like for them to constantly see other people getting pregnant. It feels disrespectful and borderline offensive to lie about something like that, and I would never. I also want to say that I completely understand the people, primarily the ones from TikTok, hi guys, that think I cheated and this is all a cover-up story. I'm not going to try and win people over, because your opinions genuinely don't matter to me. All I'm going to say is that this is a throwaway account that no one I know follows or has access to, so there would be no reason for any of that. If I actually wanted to convince people, then I would have posted it on my main, which my boyfriend and several other friends follow. Again, no one else but my boyfriend and my parents know about this at all, and I don't want them to. On a more positive note, I'd really like to thank all of the supportive comments and messages I got. They outweighed the negatives by far, and it's incredibly heartwarming and honestly surreal. I didn't expect this at all, but thank you truly. I had multiple people message me and offer to pay for things like paternity tests, abortion access, and general expenses, and with each and every message, I cried. I can't believe there are such kind-hearted people in the world, but thank you. Me and my parents have this covered, but the offer is enough, and I'm truly grateful for all of it. Hope to keep you guys posted. That's all for now. Smile. Edit. Update 2 won't post. So here it is summarized. There's not much to say. I got an ultrasound, and yes, it confirmed the pregnancy. I was still holding on to a bit of hope that it might be something else. LOL. My doctor gave me a referral to go straight to a blood work lab. I have no idea what they're actually called. SWA. My boyfriend could do a prenatal paternity test. I'd never gotten a referral that quickly. Usually, you have to wait at least a day, but she sent me over for an appointment just an hour after the ultrasound, which was really great. We did the blood test/saliva swab, and now we just have to wait about a week for the results. Most likely getting an abortion, but still figuring out the safest way to do that out of state. Thank you to the people who have been supportive. Final update. Hey guys, sorry it's been a while, but I had to wait for results. I tried my best to respond to comments and messages, even on the places this was reposted, but there were lots. Thank you very much to the polite people. The paternity test just came back, and yes, like I kept saying, it was his. The only way it wouldn't have been was if it had been SA, which there was an extremely low chance of. But even so, I'm very grateful that nothing happened to me. Me and my sleep, as some people had suggested. We found a great program that several of you had recommended to me called Plan C. They helped provide women in no abortion states with abortion pills. It was very mentally difficult for me to go through with, but just this morning, the pills came, and we used a telehealth doctor to help. I now officially had an abortion. Woohoo! I was very on the fence about it, and honestly, I'm not doing too well now, but I know it was the right choice. Now to answer some questions. No, I'm not a bot. I'm also not old. I write well because I want to be an author. Writing has interested me since I was in elementary school, and it's something I worked very hard at. I took AP Lang last year, and I'm taking AP Lit this upcoming year, so I'm well educated in that subject. Obviously, not so well educated in sex. LOL. I think some of you are wildly underestimating how articulate teens can be. We're not entirely clueless. Also, I got the paternity test because I could. Some people said it was strange to get one even though I was most likely getting an abortion, but I don't think so personally. I believe it was very necessary, and honestly, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. My parents covered it. No, my boyfriend's parents never found out about any of this, and we don't ever want them to. They're not very good/stable people, and my boyfriend plans on going no contact pretty much as soon as he turns 18. Also, we're both 17 now. Anyways, thank you all for the support on this journey. It's been rough, but I know this all helps so much. Even now, I'm still getting DMs of people offering to help both financially and mentally, and genuinely, that's amazing. I'll still be responding to comments if there are any, but when it comes to posting, goodbye, smiley face.